The room does not look like a place where anything happened. It looks like a place where everything simply stopped. A young man lies across a narrow bed, one arm hanging toward the floor, his head tilted back at an angle no sleeping person would choose. The light in the room is thin and gray, nothing moves, and yet something about the stillness feels wrong, the kind of quiet that comes after a sound, not before one. Look closer at the space around him. The room is small, almost bare, the kind of attic space rented by someone with very little money. His clothes are a deep purple red, startling against the pale walls and paler skin. The bed sheets are rumpled, but the body on top of them is completely still. Papers are scattered across the floor, some torn, some crumpled, pushed towards the edges of the room as if they no longer mattered to anyone. Nothing here explains who they belong to, or why they ended up on the floor instead of a desk. Then there's the small bottle lying near his hand, tipped over, empty. At first it seems like a minor detail, easy to miss, but once you notice it, you cannot stop noticing it. Beside it, a candle has burned down and gone out. The thin trail of smoke, long since faded into nothing. Two ordinary objects. Together they start to suggest something far less ordinary. And his hand. It hangs just past the edge of the mattress. Fingers loosely open, as though something slipped out of them only moments ago. None of this is confirmed by a label or a caption. The painting simply shows you the aftermath and asks you to work out what came before. Then there is the window. Through it, morning light spills into London. Rooftops catch the early sun. In the distance, barely visible, the dome of St. Paul's Cathedral rises above the smoke and haze of the waking city. Somewhere out there, carts are moving, shops are opening. People are stepping into a new day without knowing anything about the room behind that glass. Inside, time has stopped. Outside, it has not. That contrast is quiet, but it is unsettling once you sit with it. A whole city continuing exactly as normal, a few feet away from a scene that is anything but normal. So, who is he? The young man is Thomas Chatterton, a poet who died in 1770 at the age of 17. He had claimed to discover a set of medieval poems, later revealed to be his own invention, written in an invented archaic style. When the deception was exposed and recognition failed to follow, he was left with almost nothing. Not money, not reputation, not the future he had imagined for himself. He died alone in a rented London room. Henry Wallis painted this scene in 1856, nearly a century later. There was no authentic portrait of Chatterton for him to work from, so the face we see is partly Wallis's own reconstruction of a young poet the public had never actually seen. The model for the pose is traditionally identified as the young writer, George Meredith, though the identification comes from later accounts rather than absolute documentation. Even the room has its own uncertainty. For years it was believed to show the exact attic where Chatterton died, but evidence suggests Wallis actually painted a different room entirely, reconstructed to match the story people wanted to remember. Once you know this, the details on the canvas begin to shift. The torn papers are no longer just scattered pages. They may be read as work Chatterton judged worthless, or work the world had already judged worthless for him. The empty vial is no longer background clutter. It becomes the quiet center of the entire composition, small enough to miss, impossible to unsee. The morning light through the window stops feeling peaceful. It starts to feel almost cruel. A city moving on without ever knowing what it lost. Critics of the time noticed something else too. The pose, the pale skin, the fall of the arm, the soft light on his chest, all echo centuries of paintings depicting martyrdom and sacrifice. Whether Wallis intended that resemblance or simply absorbed it from the visual language around him remains a matter of interpretation, not certainty. What we do know is this. A young man who wanted to be remembered for his words is remembered instead for a single, silent image, painted by someone who never met him, in a room that may not even be the right one. and perhaps that is the real subject of this painting. Not what actually happened in that attic in 1770, but what an entire century afterward needed to believe about it. Some paintings leave you with answers, others leave you with questions. And if you want to uncover more stories hidden inside the world's most mysterious paintings, subscribe to Pendamento.